I would like to begin by thanking Dr. Matthew Stock and the UCF Institute of Exercise Physiology and Rehabilitation Science for inviting me to talk today. The title of my presentation is Integrating Performance Science Within a Professional Baseball Organization. My name is Dr. Joseph Myers, and I am the Director of the Baseball Performance Science Department for the Tampa Bay Rays. I have no disclosures or conflicts of interest to report. Over the past decade, there has been a huge surge in pro sports organizations implementing performance science into their organizational processes. I've seen a wide variety of backgrounds in those who are asked to lead performance science departments, ranging from academics like myself to international experts to strength and conditioning professionals. The structure of those performance science departments also varies, ranging from hire a leader to organize all areas under one performance umbrella to organizations just dabbling with a couple performance science staff members. The primary purpose of this talk is to describe how we build out the performance science program within the Tampa Bay Rays, hitting on the various barriers and challenges and considerations. With any remaining time, we will provide some examples of how we tackle performance science within the Rays on a daily basis. Ultimately, I see this presentation best aimed at both new and old performance scientists who have an interest in working in pro sports. Let's start with a brief history of performance science within the Rays. Prior to 2016, the organization implemented various technologies, but without dedicated staff. I started in January of 16, tasked to build out the performance science department. While my career is always focused on baseball, from a research standpoint, I figured out quickly that I have a lot to learn regarding baseball and its culture. From 2016 through 2017, we tried to implement too many areas, both what was started prior to my arrival and then the new areas that I saw value. We simply didn't have enough staff to support. After the 2017 season, it was time to reboot. We needed to tackle performance science differently. After the 2017 season, we took on a do less but do it better approach. Rather than try to implement many different initiatives, let's decide on which provide the most value and do them well. We started by developing a common mission across the entire performance group, not just performance science. So when I talk about the entire performance group, that includes performance science, medical, strength conditioning, mental performance, nutrition, and even our EAP program. Additionally, we focused on building out our staff, better addressing the challenges of the baseball structure, improving implementation strategies, processes for vetting technology, a forum for yearly dissemination of information, and a useful athlete management system. We will hit on each of these areas throughout this presentation. Let's start with the common mission. Leadership from across the entire performance umbrella came together with the goal of acting as one performance group rather than some of the silos that existed. As a group, we developed a common mission aimed at focusing on all things related to player health, wellness, and performance. Specifically, performance science aims to contribute to that mission by focusing on validated means to optimize performance and player health, working to promote environments and processes for optimizing player and staff wellness, exploring new initiatives aimed at gaining competitive advantage. We took a people-first approach by prioritizing the staff to handle all initiatives. There are 29 other teams we compete with, and they all have similar technologies and initiatives. Our goal was to put together a staff that does things better, that utilizes these technologies better, that implements better, that ultimately improves our player performance and wellness. So in 2023, we have 19 full-time staff, most of which have graduate degrees, 2 seasonal dietitians to support our 3 full-time dietitians, and 14 interns. This has come a long way from the 2016 when it was just myself. Okay, so baseball presents some unique challenges. They have a unique structure compared to most other pro sports. First, we have a large number of athletes, approximately 250, ranging anywhere from 16 years of age to late 30s. All these different players and that wide varying differences in age require very different developmental needs across those players. I think one of the areas that folks forget about is baseball is just not the 25 or so players that are on that major league roster, but it's that entire farm system, that entire minor league system and development system that are all part of an organization. Those players are also spread out across 8 locations. They're not under one roof like the NFL or NBA. We have 4 minor league teams, all who have affiliates all across the Southeast, a spring training complex in Port Charlotte, Florida, 2 international academies, one in the Dominican Republic and one in Venezuela, as well as our big league stadium in St. Petersburg, that being Tropicana Field. Because of the large number of locations, we needed boots on the ground every day to be on site at each location every day. This was the driving force for the development of both of our internship program and our seasonal dietitian program, of which we'll talk about. Also, given the varying locations, instrumentation considerations are important because a good chunk of the season occurs away from our main stadium or our complex. A lot of our instrumentation needs need to be able to address that challenge. Most of the instrumentation that we use on a daily basis is all portable. Okay, it can fit underneath a bus. We will talk about how we have 2 high-tech biomechanics labs later on, but those are just the 2 locations. Everything else that we do has to be portable. Okay, I'm going to put on my recruiting hat here and talk about our internship program. Our internship program is the lifeblood of our program. Interns are those boots on the ground that we talked about earlier. We put 2 interns at each minor league team, with each minor league team, to handle all things from a performance science standpoint. Because those interns are so important to us, we do a significant amount of development of those interns, partly because we tend to hire from that staff. We tend to hire full-time staff from that intern group. For example, if we look at those 19 full-time staff that are part of performance science here going into 2023, 13 of those 19 were raised interns at some point. Implementation considerations. Buy-in by players and coaches is still our biggest challenge, but that's changing a little bit. Players are changing, coaches are changing, where 5-10 years ago, players were less interested in the various technology and data associated with their performance and their health and wellness. But players are now coming out of large universities who are also doing these performance science types of initiatives. So players and the coaches are now coming in with a better understanding of various performance science initiatives and are expecting it. We do a ton to consistently try to build trust with our players. These are the players' livelihoods, okay? Unlike academics where we might conduct some type of study that includes baseball players, that's not the case here. These individuals, these players that are part of our organization, they're not research participants. This is their livelihood. As such, it's important that they feel comfortable about how any data is being utilized. We make them part of the process. The players and the coaches need to be a part of that process. We focus a tremendous amount of energy on the education for our players to make our players and staff feel like any part of any performance science initiatives, that they're a part of it. They understand how it's being used. They understand the type of data that's being collected. They understand what the purpose is. From an implementation standpoint, we also have the spring training rule. So players' routines are very important. We stress that a player needs a good routine to carry them through a very long season. As such, those routines are built during spring training, and when we're trying to implement some type of new initiative, we only implement during spring training. If the particular process or initiative is not ready for implementation by the time spring training rolls around, it's not going to be implemented that season. We will wait till the next season. Finally, from an implementation standpoint, we have to navigate the Major League Baseball Union and the role that they play in essentially discouraging players from any participation in initiatives where data might be collected and where it could be potentially used against them. In our particular case, all the processes that we have in place are geared towards improving player health, improving player wellness. We simply don't use it against the players, but again, they're being told that from the union. So it's just something that we have to overcome. Each and every day, some type of new technology comes across my plate. In some cases, those technologies are very good. In some cases, not so much. But we need to find a way to vet these technologies. So all the technology that has some type of theoretical basis of support and has value to the sport of baseball gets some type of vetting at some level by either myself or other folks within the performance science staff. The whole idea here is if we think that we're going to utilize a technology, we need to know that it works. We aim to establish our organizational specific validity and reliability. We pilot test it just like we would, in an academic setting prior to a thesis or a dissertation or some type of project. And we need to make sure we get all the various stakeholders involved in the process. So if we are examining some type of technology that has benefits to the medical side, medical has to be a part of it from day one. This is something we started 2 years ago, where every year, and we typically do this in the winter, we have a multi-day meeting with the entire performance staff in Tropicana Field. Tropicana Field is our baseball stadium where our big league team plays. But it's a time that we bring all the folks from the performance staff all together under one roof. It's a time for all areas to provide a recap of the past season. What worked well? What did not? What were some of the challenges? What do we want to focus on for the upcoming season? There's lots of presentations related to proposed initiatives for that upcoming season. And also, quite honestly, we just use this time to bring everyone together to continue to build relationships, build camaraderie. The goal of these yearly performance summits are really for all the members of the performance group to have a voice, provide input, and really feel ownership of how we're going to treat, train, and measure players in the coming season. So once the next season starts, everybody is on the same page, and we feel like this has really helped with bringing all those folks under the performance umbrella together. Need to build out an athlete management system. So, like all teams, the Rays use a ton of various technologies. As such, all these technologies each have their own platform, and they usually include some type of web-based platform, all kinds of dashboards. It kind of makes it challenging. So we have all these various technologies that are all over the place. All their data is in various areas. We need a central spot for all of that data to come into one system. We get a significant amount of data on players every day. So we need a centralized system. That should be day one priority for a sports scientist. Build out a usable system. So just to provide an example of just one of the many dashboards that we have within our system, this dashboard aims at providing various flexibility and strength variables to our medical staff. Okay, when we look at the top of the page here, you can find the Cliff Notes version of what flags we see in a particular player. So in this particular player, we see that they have some ankle mobility issues, some hamstring strength issues, lumbopelvic issues, hip strength issues. So they're all color-coded up there at the top. And then there's just a brief summary of what those flags entail. This gives the clinician just a quick overview of what we see in a particular player. But the player, that clinician then can scan down, can scroll down and see the various data that contributes to those flags. So let's change gears here a little bit and provide some insight as to some of the various initiatives within the Rays. Injury prevention and wellness is a big part of what we do. A lot of what we do relates to trying to mitigate injury risk. We do a ton of preseason and in-season assessments on strength, mobility, power, some anatomical considerations, a lot of data collected related to readiness and workload monitoring. Hydration is important. Ultimately, we really focus on the arm injuries, core injuries, and lower extremity muscle injuries. If we can make an impact on those groups of injuries, we feel like that provides a lot of value to our organization. In addition to the injury prevention and player wellness, big focus on rest and recovery as well. Okay, we provide resources for our players to recover after games, recover prior to maybe some type of game after a practice. We have a Whoop wearable program where we voluntarily, players can voluntarily opt into a program again where they can get data provided to them by wearing a simple wearable. In addition to the injury prevention and player wellness, rest and recovery, sleep, biomechanics is a huge part of what we do. We have various systems throughout our organization, from game-based systems to laboratory-based systems to practice environment-based systems. So, for example, in both our stadium and both in our stadium and our complex, we have a large biomechanics lab that includes markerless motion analysis and force plates. Okay, here we can see just one example of both kinematics and kinetics. Kinetic analysis occurring during a bullpen session. We opted for markerless motion analysis over marker-based system, partly because of time and the number of athletes that we're able to bring through within a testing session. Additionally, we want the players to feel comfortable, like it is part of just our practice environment, that they're not guinea pigs. So opting for the markerless system is really, have had some huge benefits for us. Just like we have the laboratory-based system, we also have an in-game-based system where essentially every pitch and every hit that occurs in any of our ballparks, we have 3D motion analysis from a kinematic standpoint, not a kinetic standpoint. We can estimate the kinetics. But in this particular case here, we're able to compare swings of the same player over different games, and again, look for maybe similarities, differences, if they're working on something, are those what they're working on translating to the game setting. Nutrition is a huge part of our performance science group. We currently have 5 registered dietitians who administer our nutrition program. We follow a food-first philosophy. We feed our players quite often over the course of the day. The players are at our ballparks usually from, let's say, 1 o'clock in the afternoon all the way through sometimes almost midnight. So over the course of that period, they're typically provided with at least 2 meals, in some cases 2 meals plus a snack. But our dietitians are who administer that program. The nutrition program plays a big role in focuses on sustainability. Education is a big part of it, and then obviously hydration is important for us. Okay, we are, given our location in Florida and most of our minor league teams playing across the southeastern part of the United States, we play in hot locations. Hydration has to be a focus. We also have a big focus on player development using technology and video to augment a practice environment. And then vision is important as well. We actually have a vision scientist on our staff who is charged with not only optimizing eye health, but also how the brain utilizes visual information. So let me just show you an example, okay? Our hitters participate in an inclusion training program. The goal of this training program is to train hitters to pick up on pre-ball release cues from the pitcher, okay? It takes less than 0.4 of a second from the time the ball is released from the pitcher's hand till it reaches the catcher. During that time, the hitter has to recognize the pitch, make a decision on whether to swing, and then execute that swing. By focusing on pre-release cues, maybe a pitcher can recognize that pitch a little earlier. That can happen a little faster so that the decision and the action part can have a little longer window of time to occur. So just to show you an example, in this video, the hitter sees the pitcher and up until the ball release. At that point, the video is blacked out. The player then has to decide, was it a fastball, a curveball, changeup? In this particular case, it was a fastball. But by focusing on those pre-release cues, the player may have a better ability to make a decision and thus act earlier. Again, that was a fastball. Okay, so performance science is part of a larger group. Okay, performance science is just one piece of a larger organization working daily to contribute to processes in the medical side, and the strength conditioning side, the mental performance side, the coaching side, scouting, education, and the R&D side. So with an organization like the Rays, collaboration really drives a lot of the processes that occur. So just to summarize, pro sports continues to expand utilization of performance science. More and more career opportunities are becoming available for new and old performance scientists like myself. But it will be up to that performance scientist who is hired to tackle the unique challenges that their pro sport provides. So the performance scientist must carefully consider how the organization is structured, staff considerations, strategies to address the sport-specific challenges like we see in baseball, implementation and buy-in strategies for players and coaches, technology usage, and then just data management and digestion by the pertinent stakeholders. I want to thank you for your time.